أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Welcome to another Quran study, brothers and sisters. We are going to read from verse 39, chapter 39, verse 66, the thrones, Al-Zumar. Therefore you shall worship God alone and be appreciative. This verse is the continuation of the one before, of course, and I actually wanted to add that one too. It says, idol worship nullifies all work. It has been revealed to you and to those before you that if you ever commit idol worship, all your works will be nullified, and you will be with the others. So this is also a very important verse, of course, that shows how important it is not to do any idol worship. And like when someone enters submission, we know that God says that all your sins will be um, forgiven by God, but not only forgiven, they will also turn into good deeds. So that's the huge mercy of God. But God also tells us that when you, after the revelation has come to you, and after receiving the right information, you have seen the proof and everything that God has sent. After this, if you still gonna do idol worship, then all the works that have been done, all the good deeds, everything that you have did, it will be nullified. So it's very important for all of us that we really check on ourselves and try not to do any idol worship. So of course we can make mistakes, but still we need to be very careful and remind ourselves to be very careful in any case. 67. Greatness of God. They can never fathom the greatness of God. The whole earth is within his fist on the day of resurrection. In fact, the universes are folded within his right hand. Be he glorified. He is much too high above needing any partners. The footnote says, our universe, with its billion galaxies, a billion trillion stars, uncountable decillions of heavenly bodies, spanning many billions of light years, is the smallest and innermost of seven universes. This incomprehensible vastness of the seven universes is within God's hand. Such is the greatness of God. See Appendix 6. So, in one of the videos, Dr. Rashad is also explaining this thing about the universes, the seven universes. Um, and we know, of course, that when God tells us about his right fist, it is allegorical, like it's not. So we have quite an understanding of the greatness of God. And of course, God created seven universes, and we are in the smallest universe. The earth is in the smallest universe. And so the second universe is twice as much as the first universe, and it goes on and on. And then the messenger also explains the speed of light and how big it is and how much time it will take to travel from one point to another. So we come to a point where we cannot even imagine how big it is. Our minds would not understand how big the universe is. Um, and God says in the Quran that it is within his fist. So this should give us at least an idea of the greatness of God. And after said that, there are so many people in this world, with their egos so high, thinking that they are like even kings or people who rule some part of the world. They think that they are in control or doing anything. But if you think in this way, to compare that what you can do and that what God is able to do, and He's controlling everything, and He created these universes, So it's a good reminder of the greatness of God. And we should remind ourselves, looking into everything that we see, actually, thinking about the things that we maybe even don't see. I have, moments where I think about small mosquitoes, very small creatures that come to this earth. They have a very short life. They live maybe for a few days and then die. And you have like millions, maybe like billions of them. from the moment that the earth was created until now, like so many creatures and so many things that God has created, and trying to think about that God is controlling everything, like the galaxies, but also like everything that He created in the universe, and He's controlling them. He created them, He is controlling them, and He knows everything about everything that He has created. Mm, so when Satan thought that he could be a ruler, that he could be a god next to God, and if you think about who God really is, then we can truly see how stupid Satan was actually. Like, how stupid can you be to think that you can be a god next to God while actually knowing how great God is? So that's why this was a big blasphemy, and that's one of the reasons why God doesn't. When you die, and if you die with idol worship, He doesn't accept it. Like, the thing that we shouldn't do is idol worship. And mainly what I understand from that is because it's like, um, 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 so I don't know how to say in English, but like, um, Mm, like in a school, for example, if you have a professor who is like very good in a job, and then you have just a new student, and he doesn't really know the topic, he just knows a few things, and then he pretends to be better than the professor, for example, like thinking that he knows more, or thinking that, the professor who puts so much time and effort and learns so many things. Um, so, if you look at God and how great He is, thinking that you can be also a God next to Him is like the greatest mistake and the greatest thought you ever can make, because it is impossible, that anyone else beside God can be God. The day of judgment. The thorn will be blown, whereupon everyone in the heavens and the earth will be struck unconscious, except those who will be spared by God. Then it will be blown another time, whereupon they will all rise up, looking. And the footnote here says the sequence of events on the day of resurrection begins with the symbolic blowing of the horn. The second blowing of the horn by a creature who was spared from unconsciousness marks the resurrection of all people. They will be resurrected on today's earth. This earth will then be destroyed by the physical coming of God. Then a new earth and new heavens will be created. 1448. We will then be stratified according to our degree of development. And here we can clearly see the sequence, of course, and that's what is explained here, the things that will happen. I always thought that, there would other people who will still be alive, let's say, but we learn here that everything and everyone will, what is, it's not actually death, right? Let me see this one. And the blowing of the horn by a creature who was spared from unconsciousness marks the resurrection of people. Yeah, so that creature will be the only one, and then he will blow again, and then everything will come back again. That's what I understand. Because a few verses after this is explaining about the two lives that we get, but probably that is for the for our souls, and for the ones who didn't accept submission, of course. Then the earth will shine with the light of its Lord. The record will be proclaimed, and the prophets and the witnesses will be brought forth. Everyone will then be judged equitably, without the least injustice. So there will come this day, of course, and it's called the day of judgment. And of course, we read in Quran the first chapter where it says that God is the master of the day of judgment. So He is the one. He's going to put everyone, and He's going to judge to everyone, and based on what we did and how we lived our lives. And if we, followed God's commandments, and we should know that that day will come, and live our lives accordingly, because if God promises to do something, then He definitely will. Another thing I actually wanted to talk about is, um, I had read these verses before, like before I became a submitter, and I couldn't believe that God is going to come physically to the universe, like to Earth, and everything will be destroyed. I always thought, it's something else. It's like not physical. It's also allegorical. But we know from the explanation of the Messenger of Covenant, where he gives the example of when Moses asks to see God, God tells him he is not able to see him. When he insists upon seeing him, God tells Moses to look at the mountain, and then God shows himself to the mountain, and the mountain collapses. It's like it becomes dust somehow. Um, and seeing that, Moses couldn't handle it, and um, he fell floor. So, but then we understood actually that God is a physical being, and on the day of judgment, He's gonna come to earth, and everything will be destroyed, because everything that God has created here, it cannot handle the physical of God. Every soul will be paid for whatever it did, for he is fully aware of everything they have done. Of course, God knows everything, and based on our deeds, we will be judged. And God is, of course, the best judge. He gives everything what they deserve. So it will be an honest judgment, the most honest judgment, of course. The disbelievers, 71. Those who disbelieved will be led to hell in throngs. When they get to it and its gates are opened, its guards will say, "Did you not receive messengers from among you who recited to you the revelations of your Lord and warned you about meeting this day?" They will answer, "Yes, indeed, but the word retribution was already stamped upon the disbelievers." And the messenger explains this, right? He says that you know on our foreheads, it's actually, there's a stamp which says that we will go to heaven or go to hell. It's already um, decided, because God knows the future, right? He knows who deserves, and He knows who doesn't deserve it. And one other thing here is that has to do with Dr. Rashad explaining to people that he was a messenger of God, because in the first moments, the first years maybe, he thought that telling people that he was a messenger of God was not necessarily needed. He thought that he would give the message and then go by that, and it's not really important if people knew that he was a messenger or not. But afterwards he understood that um, explaining and telling the people that he is a messenger is a form of a test for other people. So it is something that is required. And here we can read this, right? Because the guards, they are saying, "Did you not receive messengers from among you who recited to you the revelations of your Lord and warned you about meeting this day?" So this means that when God sends a messenger, it's also a part of the test. And we read from other verses in the Quran that, God says most people, when God sends a messenger, they don't accept them. And because they don't accept the messengers, they are destined to hell. And, there is. Um, the thing about accepting a messenger is very important, because um, this is a way of God communicating with the people in this world, right? He has some ways, of course, and the messenger also explains this. But one of the ways is communicating by sending a messenger. So actually, by not accepting the messenger, you are accept, because the job of a messenger is to deliver a message, right? And if you don't accept the messenger, then you are not accepting the message, and the message is coming from God. So you are not accepting God's message. Um, and of course, all this comes because of the ego. Most people, because of their egos, they don't accept messengers. But it's very important to accept them and to look in the message that is given and is sent by God. When you look at the message that is given to Dr. Rashad, everything that we knew about Islam is like was totally wrong. We were idol worshippers for many, many years, and if without the mercy of God, without Him sending a messenger, we would never know the information about 19 and the miracle and all the things that that what we did was wrong, right? And we were in idol worship. So we are being saved actually. So God sends the messengers to actually warn the people and save the ones who deserve to be saved. And those people, they don't accept the messenger because of their ego. But this concept is definitely very important, because you also have some people, it's very strange actually, but you have these people, they believe in the mathematical miracle of 19. They believe in so many things that Dr. Rashad said and told, because it's very logical. If you look at all the details that we have given about every topic, actually, it's so logical and it's so right, and it's the right information, and it comes from God, of course. So these people, they don't accept the messengership of Dr. Rashad, but because it's the truth what he's saying, and it's like very logical, they accept the part of the message. But Dr. Rashad being a messenger is also a part of the message. So in another verse in the Quran, God of course tells them, you accept a part and you don't accept the other part. And this is mostly because of the ego that people have. And we also can read in the Quran about the story that these people, they were like shocked why that person is chosen as the messenger and not themselves. So maybe in a way they are prepared to accept the message, but because of the messenger, they don't accept it. And this, of course, shows their ego. Like the devil also said to God, right? When God asked, what kept you from bowing, doing sujud? And he said, yeah, like I am better than Adam. You made me from fire and him from mud, earth. I'm like higher. And this is like a way of showing the true intentions of these people. And this is the way how God works. Actually, he does many things, and some of the things we maybe can't understand immediately, but afterwards we do. Like, for example, why in the Quran the name God is mentioned like a multiple of 19, and they counted this for many times, but in the end they learned that the chapter 9 129 8 and 29 is not from the Quran, so it's added to the Quran, and there you have the word God, you have the Allah. And even that they have counted a multiple of 19, the counting was always wrong. So after finding that out, they counted one too much actually. So when that one was removed, still the number was 19. But by this way, a lot of people who accepted the miracle of 19, they started not accepting it anymore, because they couldn't say that these two verses were added to the Quran. So God has his ways of showing the true intentions and the true beliefs of people, because he knows their hearts. So messengership is very important, and important to understand, and of course to believe in the messengers. It will be said, enter the gates of hell wherein you abide forever. What a miserable destiny for the arrogant, yeah, for those who didn't believe the messengers. Yeah, and they say, they will answer, yes, indeed, but the word retribution was already stamped upon the disbelievers. So it doesn't matter how many messengers God will send, even if He sends 2 messengers or 20 messengers. When the stamp is there, and when you are one of the souls who doesn't, um, who is not going to go to heaven, you are not going to accept it because you don't deserve it. The believers. Those who reference their Lord will be led to paradise in throngs. When they get to it and its gates are opened, its guards will say, peace be upon you. You have won. Therefore, you abide herein forever. They will say, "Praise be to God who fulfilled his promise to us and made us inherit the earth, enjoying paradise as we please. What a beautiful recompense for the workers." So one of the other things that we see here is that hell is eternal, and heaven is also eternal. If you ask like 19, if you ask to 99%, maybe to the people who think that they're Muslim, if you ask them, they will think that going to hell is like for some time until they pay for the mistakes that they have done and pay for their sins. But God clearly gives the information of some, if I'm not mistaken, the Israelites, that they were talking and they were saying, yeah, like hellfire is not going to burn us forever. We're just going to go to hell for a specific of time, and then we will go to heaven. So this is a main belief in the Islamic world. Almost all of the Muslims, they think that they will eventually go to heaven, because they say that they believe in God, and in that they believe that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger and prophet of God. Because only that what they are saying, they think that this one that will make sure that they will go to heaven, even if they would go to hell. But it's not true. So actually, they're gambling. They are gambling their eternal life based on the teachings of their fathers, of their forefathers, the imams, etc. And of course, most of these people, because they don't care, they don't read the Quran, they don't look at the Quran, and they don't ask help from God to understand the Quran, because they don't care. So if you don't care, if you don't want to know the truth, while God has sent like the messengers, he sent the miracles. So if you don't care, you're not even going to take time to look at it. And this is one of the things that I ask to most people whom I go into a discussion. I always ask them, how many chapters are there in the Quran? What did God say about this and that? And then you can easily see that most of the people, they don't know, they don't have the information what is written in the Quran. So this shows, and then I ask them, like, what is your age? People who are 55 years old or 60 years old, and I'm asking them, you didn't even take, like, you don't have to take a months or weeks of your life to read the Quran. You can read the Quran within a few days, like even one day, you can read the whole Quran. You don't have to understand everything immediately, but at least you will have some idea of the message that God has sent. And, and if you are like a truthful, sincere person, God is going to help you understand it. But clearly, these people, they are not sincere and they don't care. So why should God help them then to understand the Quran? And even if they are reading it, because they are not sincere, they are not able to understand the true message in the Quran. And that's why people make mistakes. They do their prayers wrong. The zakat is wrong. Everything is wrong what they are doing. And the thing that is here said about the believers, imagine that you are in front of the gate, and the gates, and then it opens, and then you have a guard there. He says, "Peace be upon you. You have won. Therefore, you abide herein forever." Like, imagine the joy that the ones who are deserving to go to heaven will have at that moment. Like, this verse is very beautiful. I wish, I hope, inshallah, with help of God, that we will make it, and we will be one of those who are at that gate, finished the test, and then enter heaven, God willing. That would be like the best moment for us, right? For the ones who deserved it. They will say, "Praise be to God who fulfilled his promise to us and made us inherit the earth, enjoying paradise as we please." What a beautiful recompense for the workers. You will see the angels floating around the throne, glorifying and praising their Lord. After the equitable judgment is issued to all, it will be proclaimed, "Praise be to God, Lord of the universe." Yeah, so we should imagine that day. This is very important. I think this is really important for us to, when we live our lives, there are so many things that we are doing. We are working, going to school, we have children, going, traveling. We do so many things. So I think we should put at least a moment in a week or every day maybe, to think about this, like to think about the judgment day, the moment after the judgment day is fulfilled, and then the ones who are going to hell to heaven. And then like when you read this verse, especially when it talks about the believers who are at the gate, and it makes my heart very warm, because I really want to go to heaven. Especially that we know how bad hell is, right? And it's eternal. So this will definitely help us. It will be something that we should remember every day, and then hope and pray to God that He will make us one of those who are at that gate of paradise, inshallah. Surah 40, Forgiver. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. HM. The footnote says the initials Ha Mim occur in surahs 40, 46. The total frequency of occurrence of the letters Ha and Mim in the 7 surahs is 2,147, or 19 times 113, Appendix 1. So these letters, we see these letters in the beginning of 29 chapters in the Quran, and these letters are like a mystery for about 1,400 years, and no one knew the meaning about this. And some people had some ideas about it. Everyone was guessing, and the way how the miracle of 19 came into existence actually was found is by Dr. Rashad Khalifa counting these letters. And he started by the second chapter, which started with Alif Lam Mim, and he put it in the Quran, in the computer, and the computer counted these letters. And the first thing that it gave was the frequency of these letters were that these letters were used. These letters were the most used letters in those chapters, except for Surah Yasin. So then, he published this about. This information, he published it, and soon after this publishment in 1974, he looked at what these numbers have to do with each other, and there he saw that all were multiples of 19. And after that, he looked upon what is 19. He looked, of course, to chapter 47, verse 30, where it said over it is 19. And then the research went by, and every time they found something new, and they were amazed by the information that came through that, like a huge miracle, one of the biggest miracles that God has sent, because it is not time bound or a place bound. Everyone at this moment, even if the messenger is not alive, can look at the Quran, count the letters, and see the miracle. After 20 years, you still can see the miracle. So most of the miracles, if I'm not mistaken, were time bound, of course, and the messengers were there. So, for example, when Jesus showed some miracle, after he died, he couldn't do any other, he couldn't show any other miracles, because the miracles were done by him and or done by the other messengers that God has sent. But this miracle that God has sent, the miracle of 19, is one which is for like until the end of the world. Everyone can witness it, everyone can see it. And this miracle is also proving the previous miracles. So when the messenger explains, of course, he says that, when Moses put his staff in the water, and then there was a road towards the other side, God was a witness there, right? We didn't see it. It's written in the Quran, but we are not witnessing that miracle. But by understanding and knowing the miracle of 19, when you read it, you know that every letter and every word is placed there by the witness, by the one who did all those miracles, and that's God. So that makes us actually witness every miracle that is written in the Quran. So I am a witness that Jesus, the miracles that he did, I am a witness right now, because I know 100% sure that it happened, because the information is coming from God, the one who made those miracles. MashaAllah. So, and there are, of course, more information about the miracle of 19 in the appendixes and in the website. So anyone who wants to see that miracle, who wants to witness a miracle, so that their belief in the Quran, a lot of people, they believe in the Quran, of course, but they don't have a proof that this book is from God. So by understanding and reading about 19, you will gain more certainty. This will make your belief, you will believe more. Because in chapter 47, 31, verse 31, God explains what this miracle of 19 does. And one of the things is that the ones who already believe in the Quran, their faith will grow in this book. Because we always believed without a proof. Right now, we believe in the Quran, but with a proof. So that's also very important. And it's also an exception. Like, why the God sends a book, and this book is like written in a mathematical structure, and people who are saying that the hadith are also from God, then they need to come with some kind of a proof as well. If we say like this book is from God, we can prove it. We can say, listen, you have this mathematical miracle in 19, and if you look in all the details, that's the proof that this book is indeed the words of God. And you need to apply the same thing for the other things, right? For the other sources that other people give. If you say the hadith is also from God, okay, then you need to prove it. And if you can't prove it, then why did God then send this book with the proof, but the hadith does not have any proof? Actually, only uh, this idea should be enough, enough logical explanation for the people who believe that hadith is from God. This should be sufficient enough for them to not take the hadith as a source anymore. But yeah, if their minds are made up, then it doesn't matter. Like, the minds are not going to change. But we, as believers in the miracle of 19, there is definitely a logic about it. And the more you think about it, the more we understand it. This revelation of the scripture is from God, the Almighty, the Omniscient. So the first verse, we read the letters, Hamim. The second verse says, this revelation of the scripture is from God, the Almighty, the Omniscient. So these letters, they prove that these things are from God, of course. And actually, in these 29 chapters where we see these letters, almost in all of them, God says the same. He says, like, the letters Alif Lam Mim Taha Yasin Nun, and the second one is, most of the times, these are the revelations from the scripture, proving that it's from God. It is from God. MashaAllah. Forgiver of sins, acceptor of repentance, strict in enforcing retribution, and possessor of all power. There is no other God beside him. To him is the ultimate destiny. And when I'm reading this verse number 3, like, in just one or two sentences, God gives so many information, and it's like very beautiful to read. Forgiver of sins, acceptor of repentance, strict in enforcing retribution, and possessor of all power. There is no other God beside him. To him is the ultimate destiny. Like, we should definitely repeat this verse so many times in a day. Like, it's so amazing. And then thinking that people saying that Jesus is God, one who doesn't have any power compared to God. Um, yeah, so that's why, um, it's unfortunate, of course, but most people are going to hell, and that's because they don't really understand who God is. And this verse, mashallah, I want to read it again. It says, forgiver of sins, acceptor of repentance, strict in enforcing retribution, and possessor of all power. There is no other God beside him. To him is the ultimate destiny. Mashallah. Really, like, reading the Quran is very beautiful. Like, it's so amazing to read these things. And looking at people who are reading it but don't understanding it, or reading it and not accepting the Quran is like really. Actually, I found it really strange. But then, of course, we have the information that people, if they don't deserve it, they will not understand. Um, but it's very hard, like, to read it and then for people who are, it's very easy for some people, right, to say, ah, this is nothing. You have people, they say, ah, it's a poet. Oh, Muhammad wrote it by himself and then he had some help from other people, or yeah, Muhammad was very smart, so he wrote it down. But then if you look at the Quran, you can see it's definitely only from God and no one else. None argues against God's revelations except those who disbelieve. Do not be impressed by their apparent success. So of course you have like a lot of people, it seems they have some success in this life, and the way how they're talking, or you have some professors, people who like gain some success thinking that the success belongs to them. Of course God is doing everything, but God also tests people, right? He gives some people money, he gives them wealth, he gives them the things that, there are so many, like for example Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. These people, they are successful people, right? But in reality, it is not even their success. It's God who is doing it. It's God who is giving them all the wealth, all the things that they are doing. It's all done by God. So it's not their own success. But when you look at it, all the people who are looking at them, they're like thinking, oh, they are the ones who are successful. Oh, Elon Musk is so smart. Or Jeff Bezos is so smart. He did this and this, and he, worked for 16 hours a day. So that's why he's so successful and he's so smart. He read so many books. In reality, it isn't like that. It is all God's doing. He is doing it. He is arranging it, and he knows why he is doing it. There's a purpose for him doing that. And God says clearly in the Quran that God gives some people like money and wealth for a specific of time, for a specific of period, to test them. Because when the messenger explains, right, he said, perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness for the ones who believe in God and who believes in this revelation and who do accordingly. But then the question comes, yeah, but like you have that person, he has so much money, but he's not a believer. How is that possible? And the messenger explains, he says, these people who you think that are happy, they are actually not happy. In, I believe, a few studies before, Brother John mentioned it, that Elon is using antidepressing medicine, I think, or some of that stuff. Many of these people who have wealth and who are very rich, they are not happy actually, because they can't be happy. Happiness doesn't have to do anything with your body, with money, with family. It has only to do with the growth of your soul. The bigger your soul, the happier you are. And we know, to make our souls bigger, we need to think about God. We need to know God. We need to know Him truly, His true qualities. But most people do not know, of course. Misbelieving before them were the people of Noah and many other opponents after them. Every community persecuted their messenger to neutralize him, and they argued with falsehood to defeat the truth. Consequently, I punished them. How terrible was my retribution. Thus, the judgment of your Lord is already stamped upon those who disbelieve, that they are the dwellers of hell. So they can't be helped. It doesn't matter what you do or what they do. It's already, the decision is already made. They will not deserve heaven. So, God says, I punished them. How terrible was my retribution. Thus, the judgment of your Lord is already stamped upon those who disbelieve, that they are the dwellers of hell. 7. Angels pray for the believers. Those who serve the throne and all those around it glorify and praise their Lord and believe in Him. And they ask forgiveness for those who believe. Our Lord, your mercy and your knowledge encompasses all things. Forgive those who repent and follow your path, and spare them the retribution of hell. This is great news, right? All these angels, they are praying for the believers. Did I missed one? No, 4011. Yeah, so remember the angels, they were like telling God that we should go to hell. when we made the mistake, but God knew, of course, what they didn't know. And angels said, yes, send them to hell because they deserve it. And actually, we deserved it, right? And if it was not for the mercy of God, we all would be in hell right now. So, thinking about that, how merciful God is, we should be so grateful to Him, and pray to Him every day and thank Him for His mercy, because even the angels, they said that we should go to hell, but God is the most merciful one. So when we talk about and think about the angels, we think of the best creatures, right? The best creatures, they didn't make the mistake, they followed God, they didn't have this idolatrous idea, or the best creatures, of course, except those who didn't accept it. And But even they hadn't the mercy to forgive the ones who made the mistakes. Our Lord, and admit them into the gardens of Eden that you promised for them and for the righteous among their parents, spouses, and children. You are the Almighty, most wise, and protect them from falling in sin. Whomever you protect from falling in sin on that day has attained mercy from you. This is the greatest strength. So you know what happened with Abraham and his son. So he dreamed about him sacrificing his son for God, but then God saved both of them. So he saved Abraham making a mistake, killing his own son, thinking that he's sacrificing him for God because God asked him, while he didn't actually. And the reason is God, of course, knew that Abraham was one of the souls that deserved heaven. The same comes with the other ones. If I'm not mistaken, it was with Jonah. And when he was in the belly of the fish, he repented to God. And right, he repented and he admitted his mistakes. And then God says that he accepted his repentance and forgave him because he was a good person, like he was a sincere person who deserved to go to heaven. The same counts for Prophet Joseph. He was also making a mistake, right? He was going to sin with Zuleika, but then there was a sign, and then after seeing the sign, he didn't do the sin. God protected him because he deserved to be saved. That's the whole point. Like most of the people, they would think, yeah, like these messengers and prophets, they have this special gift from God that they can't sin actually because God is protecting them, and we are just normal human beings. We are not messengers or prophets, so we just can do these sins, and God is not going to protect us. But that's not true. This counts for every soul, actually. For every soul that deserves to go to heaven, God knows that they are deserving. So according to what they are deserving, God is planning their life, right? He's saving them from the sins or other things. So, mashallah, it's good to know that, God will help definitely. If you are, of course, sincere. And you see, you are the Almighty Most. Our Lord, admit them into the gardens of Eden that you promised for them, and forgiveness among their parents and spouses. You are the Almighty, and protect them from falling into sin. So they are not praying only for the messenger and the prophets, they are just praying for all the believers. So this counts for every believer, mashallah. God alone. The disbelievers confess. 10. So those who disbelieve will be told God's abhorrence towards you is even worse than your own abhorrence towards yourselves. For you were invited to believe, but you choose to disbelieve. God alone, the disbelievers suffer two deaths. They will say, our Lord, you have put us to death twice, and you gave us two lives. Now we have confessed our sins. Is there any way out? Yes, well, this is one of the things that is really amazing. And in the Quran, God says, even if God would send them 1,000 times, even if He would give them 1,000 lives, it's not going to change anything. They're still going to come back, and they're still going to do idol worship, and they're still not going to deserve heaven, and they're going to end up in hell. It's not going to matter. But you see these people, what they're going to say, they will just saying, okay, you gave us these two lives, so meaning you gave us like 2 times the chance to repent. And now we have confessed our sins. Is there any way out? They, of course, after the third time when they die, they understand, okay, we made these mistakes, and they are confessing. And they are, of course, trying to see a way out of it, to save themselves. You know, when the reality hits you, it's really going to be late. So we need to be very careful. We need to think about our deeds and the way how we live. We need to prioritize submission and the commandments that God has given to us, because this is our last chance. We don't have any other chance. And like most of us, until what time we live, like what age? Let's say 80 or 100 years. And you know, most people who are living right now, if you ask them about a week before or a month before, the time, it goes so fast. It goes really fast. Like every day when I'm like, times go so by so fast, and you look at it, oh, then you are 30, then you are 40, then 60, and then death is very nearby, 70, 80, and then eventually we are all gonna die, if not by an accident or something, which, you know, you don't have to live until 100 or 80. There, it can be that you can just die by something else when you're 40. There is no guarantee. We don't know how long we are going to live. So we need to use every moment, every minute and second of our lives to remember God and to use it for actually our hereafter. And the messenger says something about this. He says, everything that you do for this earth is going to be nullified, like it's zero. It's not going to mean anything at all. Everything that you do for this world is going to be nothing. So everything that we do should be for the hereafter. A smart guy, the smart people, they would think about it and invest in the eternal life instead of this world. Like even today, if you go to a very successful businessman or a woman and you ask them about business and how to invest, etc., they are going to talk in a logical way, you know, because this is very logical. Why should you invest in something which is going to stand for just a minute, for example, compared to like 100 years? Are you going to put your cards to only 1 minute, or are you going to use it for 100 years? Of course, you're going to choose 100. But we are talking here about infinite, like it's never going to end. So the best thing for us is to do to invest in our hereafter. 12, God alone. Note the reason. This is because when God alone was advocated, you disbelieved, but when others were mentioned beside him, you believed. Therefore, God's judgment has been issued. He is the Most High, the Great. And this we can clearly see in the Sunnis, the Shiites, the all the other people who are not in submission. You know, even with my own mother, you know, I tried so many times to ask her if she could just say La ilaha illallah without naming any other, like without naming the prophet's name, but she didn't, she couldn't. Like most people, when you ask them, it's never only God. They still need to put something beside God. And that comes, of course, because of the idolatrous feelings which is in them, right? So when they not deserve to go to heaven, it is for them impossible to you know, say La ilaha illallah alone, only mentioning God. And God says here, they don't believe. Like when God alone was advocate, and he gives this example where this guy, I think it was also his father, you know, telling him that he should put Muhammad's name next to God. And then the other guy who came to the mosque and who saw God's name alone there on the wall, and he didn't like it, seeing God's name. And then because Muhammad's name was not there, and you know, something similar happened to me. The first videos, the first time when I was watching Dr. Rashad's videos, you can clearly see, right? There is this Arabic word Allah there mentioned. So because we are so used to see God's name not alone, always Muhammad next to it, we are so used to see that. I felt strange. I thought, yeah, but like God's only God's name, and then, but of course, soon after listening to the message and all these things, it comes very clear that it should be only God, of course. But because we are so used to seeing that, we can find it very strange. And most of these people, they found it very strange seeing only God's name on the wall. Uh, and I think I didn't read the footnote 40, 11, 12. I will do that inshallah and then finish. The disbelievers go through two deaths while the righteous believers do not taste death. Beyond the death we already experienced, 44, 56. Please see Appendix 17. The reason for going to hell is obvious. Even those who believe in God associate others with him. See 39, 45. And the messenger also explains about what is death like. And he, of course, gives the example of, when we sleep, our souls go out our body and it goes up. And then it comes back for the ones whom God has given more timeless. It's like going into sleep. This is for the believers. So, but for the non-believers, it's going to be very difficult. And for many long years, I always thought that death is going to be very difficult, so much pain, etc. But this is like a promise of God that if you are a believer, a submitter who deserve to go to heaven, it's like going to sleep. Mashallah. Inshallah, we will be one of those who are going to experience that. If I have made any mistakes, may God forgive me. If there are any questions or anything that you brothers and sisters want to add, please go ahead.
Mashallah, thank you. That's very good.
Mashallah. Thank you, brother. God bless you.
Yeah, mashallah. I really enjoyed, brother. Like these were so beautiful verses. I really
Mhm.
loved reading them, mashallah.
Mashallah.
So it's definitely, something that helps grow your soul, right? Like you're feeding your soul when you're reading the Quran, of course. And then talking about God, His greatness, and this message that He has given us is like
Mhm.
amazing, mashallah.
Yeah, I mean, you're remembering God, you're growing your soul. That's why we ask everybody to participate.
Yeah, I really liked verse 3, brother. The chapter 40, verse 3. You have these verses in the Quran,
40
also
verse
others, of
3.
course. Yeah, 40 and then verse 3. Like in a very small in a few sentences or just one sentence, God is saying something, right? And then you're thinking like so much information, like so beautifully mentioned by God, like just in a few sentences. Then you're thinking, wow, like who else can do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, subhanAllah. I mean, I believe that Quran study is a very important part of our learning, especially when we have to explain the verses too, it helps us sort of reinforce all these concepts in our own brain when we explain them out loud, and we understand them better. Our brain responds differently um, to that, mashallah. And so, and it also helps us reflect more when we're saying something, because then if we're not doing it ourselves, it makes us feel like really bad. And so we try to work even harder and making sure that, we are doing what we're telling people to do. So it's psychologically, I think this is a great exercise for all of us, to talk about these verses, and not just for the reader, but also for the other participants, to engage and make comments, share their perspectives, ask questions. Quran studies about active participation from everyone, because we get to hear everybody's ideas, everybody's perspectives, and the Messenger of the Covenant also explains how that is important. How that is an important reason for having a Quran study, so we can hear each other's perspectives, and benefit from them, because hearing other people's perspectives help us understand things better and see verses in a light that we never saw. Of course, God is the teacher of the Quran, so whoever is either leading the study or participating in the study, even if they're learning something from them, God is the one who's teaching us. So God is allowing this to be a way for us to learn something from Him. So, mashallah, it's a great blessing.
Yeah, mashallah. You can also see this, the messenger explains. He says when you are discussing with someone and you don't remember the verses that will uh, help you with the discussion, and when that
Hmm.
person leaves there and then you say, oh, you remember those verses, right? You think, oh, if I
Hmm.
had said this, then I would have given him a good answer. But then the reason
Hmm.
is that that person, he doesn't deserve to hear all these things.
Hmm.
So mashallah, God is really doing everything, and of course the Quran studies that we are doing, so he's
Hmm.
arranging everything. Hopefully, it will be much better, brother. Of course, like everyone here is doing their best. Of course, we should definitely
Inshallah.
uh, repeat and tell ourselves that we should put more effort into it. And inshallah,
Hmm.
God will help more.
Inshallah. Yeah, I mean, this verse about the greatness of God really helps you reflect on how great God is, and then you think about all these humans that these people have set next to God. I mean, if you think about God and this magnitude, where do all these humans stand in the picture? They're you know, not even like microscopic creatures in that comparison to God. You know, and and that even how big or small as Satan is, all his powers that were given to him that made him think he could be a god. It's amazing thing is that he didn't understand that those were powers that were given by God, and God was controlling his powers. So this whole idea that he was somebody, doesn't really make any sense, unless his powers were independent of God, and he was some kind of a sovereign, which we know God is the only one who is sovereign. I mean, so there's absolutely
Mm.
makes zero sense
I
for Satan to have this kind of idea that he was someone.
Yeah, I remember the word, brother. I couldn't think of it. Was insult. Like you're
Hmm.
insulting God. Like how
Hmm.
can you think of something, when if you look at God, how powerful he is and that everything that he's doing, like it's really an insult to him. Like like we should have been, bowing down and accepting everything what he said.
Hmm.
We definitely shouldn't have made that mistake. That Iblis could be somehow a god or something, or
Hmm.
yeah. And you understand it much better. Like it's a huge insult. The same is also like when I give sometimes the example, with people who are doing their prayers, contact prayers, reading Fatiha and these verses, but not understanding what they are saying. Like it's some
Hmm.
kind of an insult, right? And it's the insult you're doing towards God. So why should God forgive it? You know?
Hmm.
And he didn't send like even the devil not immediately to hell, right? He didn't send him directly. He could if he wanted. He could say, okay, you just go to hell. But he didn't. He gave him time even. So that's really
Yeah, I mean, for devil, it was just to show that he couldn't be a god beside God. That he would not be able to. It was to test his claim, to basically, um, you know, demonstrate his claim. That he could
yeah,
be a god. So he was
yeah,
given this temporary kingship to
mhm.
demonstrate, you know.
Yeah, brother. So when you, like, as an example, right, you have this, let's say, the strongest and the biggest kickboxer of the world, like very big, huge guy, and he's so good at kickboxing, and then some small kid comes there, thinking he can also kickbox. The guy would say,
Yeah,
go away. Like I'm not even going to try. I'm not even
Hmm.
going to show
Yeah,
you
but
that.
that's not that's not even a good comparison.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no comparison really.
yeah, of
But
course, of
I
course.
would say, you can take like I don't know, a whale and an ant or something, like,
Yeah, yeah.
or a mosquito or
Yeah,
something
like
like
I
that.
meant, I meant about we as humans.
No, I know.
Like
Yeah,
as a human comparison, even if you are like that close, you would say, "Yeah, go away," right? But the gap is so huge, like it's infinitely huge, infinitely. But still,
yeah.
God has His ways, right? So He's
Hmm.
definitely most merciful, most knowing. So, mashallah.
Hmm.
Mashallah, and it's the ego that got Satan in the position he is. The reason why he's gonna suffer forever in hell. Because of his ego, and then you see it in human beings too.
Yeah, the reason why someone has an ego is because they think that they are the ones who are doing it, or they think that the talent, the capability is theirs, forgetting that everything is from God. So even like Brother Suleiman said, the powers that he has given by God are given by God. It's not his own powers. It's given by God. So why the ego? Look, how can you have an ego if you truly believe that everything is from God and God is the only one who's doing anything at all and who's doing everything? So that's why it's very important, the verse where God says,
Hmm.
kill your egos, because the
Hmm.
ego will make you think that it's because of you, because of your
Hmm.
talents, or because of your way of thinking. But in reality, everything is done by God.
Hmm. And it's interesting to see that Satan acknowledges that, right? In the sense that, when Satan realized that he went astray, he said, "Since you will that I go astray, I will scout for them
Yeah, it's because of you.
on your straight path," right? And so Satan knows, even though, of course, he knows that God has given him the powers, right? But he still has the ego to want to be a god, besides God, and to have this idea that he could rule his own people, with the powers that God gave him. But that doesn't make him a god, that just which is pretty much what he had. He had powers that were given to him by God. He was a high ranking creature. So he should be just content with what God gave him, in the sense that when God talks about serving humanity, if he has given you the power, so whatever God is telling you to do, you should do what God is telling you to do, rather than. But when he refused, he actually rebelled against God. When God said that you have to go and serve the humans, he actually refused based on his ego. But he refused not the humans, he refused God. He refused to, in other words, allegorically speaking, he refused to prostrate not before Adam, but he refused to prostrate before God because of Adam.
Yeah, you worship the one uh, whom you follow, right? Whom you
Hmm.
follow the things that he say. Yeah. So like you have some people, they are doing good deeds. Like for example, you have these groups, and you have the sheikhs there, and the sheikh is telling them, yeah, you should help that person, for example, and then they are helping that person not because God said so, but because his teacher said so. So you're worshiping actually the ones whom you follow.
Hmm.
Yeah, they are so connected to them, right? I see this more often also in Turkey. These people with it's called the tariqat, the sheikhs, the
Hmm.
tariqat, the
Yeah,
leaders,
yeah.
those people.
Sufi stuff.
Yeah, Sufi stuff. They're so in love with with these people. They put
Right.
they put
Yeah, they have to love them as they should love God.
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But they are preaching that, they are definitely preaching
Mm-hmm.
that. If you don't love him as you love God, then you won't come next to God. Like you won't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But it's like if you deserve that, then God will give you that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so gross. It's all about love. Like they're all males, anyways.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But imagine like you have a teacher, and then you say, "Oh, you have to love the teacher just like you love God," or leader in that sense. Like it becomes so ridiculous. Yeah. So in the Sufi sects, like you have to, the Sufi leader is a very big idol too. Always, you know,
Yeah, they are like
and
unquestioning.
hmm hmm and that's what Rashad was saying too. That his father was a renowned Sufi leader in Egypt, and he had named his following, uh, mm, you know, uh, based on his name, Rashad's name, because Rashad was his favorite. And then what you said about Muhammad not having Muhammad's name, his father refused to enter the masjid because he says, "I will not enter this mosque until you put Muhammad's name next to God." And then the messenger of the covenant, he told him, he says, he says, until you believe that way, you will not step foot in this masjid. He says, because God says that the idol worshippers are filth. Subhanallah.
So I would like to comment on verse 12. So first of all, I really like how Brother Jafar explained the eternal of hell and heaven. They think that they will just burn a few years uh, when they go to hell, and then they will be saved because they are Muslims. So like Jesus worshippers also say the same thing. If you believe in Him, you will definitely be saved, no matter what you do. And the traditional Muslims also believe in this kind of idea. So actually, when we look at the Quran, the truth is, if you believe in God alone, you will be saved. Believing in God is not enough. So it has some requirements, as we see in verse 12. If you believe in God alone, you will be saved. Satan is also believes in God, but he has his ego, and he uh, worships his ego. So he will be go to hell. So what we see in the Quran is that if you believe in God alone, you will be saved. But believing in God is not enough. So you have
Mhm.
to be only following the God alone.
Mm-hmm. So,
Mashallah, because you could say, you believe in God and then you're just sinning every day and doing all these bad things, That's why um, it's important to proclaim your faith and say, you believe in the one God. It's, you know, just saying it and giving lip service is not enough. You must practice um, the practices God has given us, and it's very true, mashallah. Following the Quran and the Quran alone.
exactly, mashallah. I mean, God doesn't want people to, God is testing us to see if we are actually who we say we are. Just saying that I believe in God, or even say I believe in God alone, has to be tested. With actions, with especially the admissions test alone. Is very strong. It's the exacting way of exposing all our true qualities. So nobody can say in this world. I mean, the reason why we are created is God could have. I mean, God could have just taken statements from us, oral statements, when He made the sin, and then sent us to heaven or hell based on our statements. But everybody was saying that they believed in God. That wasn't a way to weed them out, and so they had to be practically put to the test. I mean, of course, God didn't have to do any of this. Out of His mercy, He's allowing it to happen. But for us to be able to see and understand and acknowledge and know that this is why we're going to heaven or hell, this is a demonstration of God's justice, to not put us to heaven or hell without telling us why we are going there. Like what's inside of us. Like when some people decided to follow Satan and some didn't, and throughout the feud in the high society. I mean, we would be really complaining and everything, like, if somebody guided us or this or that, or, we'd have a chance, we would be better guided and all this stuff, as it says in the Quran. So God gave us this chance. At the same time, Satan wanted to be a god, so God's like, okay, here you go. This is your this is your big moment. You think you can be a god beside me? Here's your here's your kingdom. You know and as we know, like, compared to compared to what God has created, all these other decillions of heavenly bodies, this one tiny mode is nothing. But He cannot even control that, as small it is. And of course, God, you want to compare it, I mean, He's controlling billions of galaxies, billion trillion stars and 7 universes, as it says, are folding with His right hand. So, I mean, where is the Earth even in that space? Like, if Satan thinks that he has this big ego, even if he could even control that tiny mode, which he can't, obviously, but where would that put him? Next to God. And then there are people that are still worshiping him too. In fact, majority of the humans, are worshiping Satan.
Yeah, you're or with God or with Satan. You side with God or with Satan,
Hmm.
of course.
Hmm.
And this reminds me what the messenger also said about um, him knowing that or understanding that he is incapable. You remember in one of the videos he says that by now he's going to understand and he's going to give up.
Hmm.
What can we? How can we understand that actually? Like, does this mean that Satan is right now at this moment he already gave up, or
Well,
um,
in the sense that he already knows he's going to hell and he can't rule it. It's made known to him obviously that he can control, like after the new era started, which was I
mhm,
think after 1985 or something, right? He understood that the world has grown to a point where it's out of his control to prove his godhood.
mm, but
So
still
it's no
he is.
longer, yeah, but he's still trying, obviously, but in that
Mhm,
sense, but he's just fulfilling his promise of uh, as many people that he can take with him. He's just
mhm,
doing that, and deceiving people and everything. But
mm.
as far as him knowing he could be a god or not, I think it's pretty obvious now that he knows that I can't do this. I and
Yeah, after
yeah,
so many mistakes.
because nothing is in his control. The world is in complete, chaos, you know, and it's getting worse and worse as we see in the news and stuff. The world is
Mm.
just full of misery and problems and people dying of hunger and starvation and wars and as the population grows, I mean, it becomes more and more obvious that
Difficult
Satan
for him also.
cannot be a god. Yeah.
Also difficult for him to manage, right? And is there
Yeah.
any specific information about Satan thinking that God will forgive him?
No, there's no. He
I've been
said.
missing.
He said. He's no. He knows he's gonna go to hell eventually.
But okay,
But
but
uh,
yeah, is it? Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, he, like, is there any way that he's still maybe going to try to ask God for forgiveness, or do we already know he's like because of his ego,
no,
even he's.
everything that he thinks in that sense is in the Quran, right? So there's
Mhm,
everything that we need to know that he thinks is really in the Quran, and he has just said, okay, if you will, I go astray. God says, I'll fill hell with you, and all those who follow you. He says, okay, I'm gonna take as many people as I can with
mhm.
me.
Yeah, but that's so
I'll
stupid,
send the worshippers astray. Yeah,
It's very
it's
stupid.
just
Like,
yeah,
why?
it's just
Yeah.
blind ego.
Yeah, but you're going to hell, You're not going to a
Yeah, but
holiday
at
somewhere.
this time, obviously, it's not about for Satan. It's not about logically thinking. It's about ego.
Mhm.
They say,
Yeah.
fine, you want to sell me to hell? I'm going to take all of your worshippers with me, as many as
Yeah.
I can.
So this shows how strong ego can be, right? If you have an ego,
Mm-hmm.
how strong that feeling can be, that even if
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna go to hell, and
Mm-hmm.
actually, I know some people who are, sinning, like they say they believe in God, they say they believe in hell and heaven, etc., but still sinning and thinking, yeah, I don't care. Like I'm gonna, even if I go to hell, then I'll be
God
in
will
hell.
forgive
So
me.
what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or what?
No, no, not forgive
I missed
him.
the last
Like,
part.
yeah, no, no. So
Or
they're
said, if I
saying,
go to hell, so what?
yeah, so what? Like yeah, and then I will go to hell, but still I'm gonna do what I'm going to do right now. Still I'm going to sin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do this no matter what. Like even if you prove them, even if you give so many proofs and talk to them, they
Mm-hmm.
say no, I'm just gonna do it. And you tell them like there's hell. He knows they believe in hell, for example, but then maybe maybe, yeah, I don't know, maybe they don't believe, but they say they believe. So while saying that, still sinning and still doing these things. And I think one of the reasons is they take it extremely lightly. They take it lightly. They don't really understand and know what the truth and reality is about heaven and hell. For example, hell being eternal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the biggest tricks I think that the devil has done to make
Mm-hmm.
think people may think them that it's only
They'll
for a
eventually be
specific
saved.
period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a specific period, even if you are like a very
Mm-hmm.
bad person, it doesn't matter. And
Mm-hmm.
also one of the other things, like you can see how um, sneaky devil is, telling them like God is so merciful, he's definitely not going to allow the creatures he had created to be in hell forever. You have so many Muslims and so many imams and like clergymen talking about this. They say, yeah, like there is no sin that deserves hell for eternity, right? Because like for eternity, they don't accept this, and they're thinking even if it's like Hitler or someone else or this actually means that if you believe in that, then the devil will also go to heaven, right? If you believe in that, if you believe that hell is only temporary. So
Mm-hmm. Because your brother Abdullah says a question from YouTube comments: what is the best way to invite a Sunni Muslim to true belief? Um, so I guess I mean anybody can answer, but my best recommendation for a Sunni person, uh, is to invite them using some stuff that is similar to how the Messenger of the Covenant has put in the book Quran, Hadith, and Islam. Right, so that's a perfect way to invite these people. I mean, the book Quran, Hadith, and Islam really summarizes the main topic and the essence of submission to God alone versus like Sunni Islam and Hadith. Really puts it in perspective. And it's a very small book. It's easy to read, so you could either give them the book or explain to them things in the same way or order as the Messenger of the Covenant has explained using the same points. And the book is available on Submission WS. It's available on the app. It's called Quran, Hadith, and Islam by Dr. Rashad Khalifa.
yeah, but also
And
the
yeah,
video, right? The
we also have
interview.
the
That's
video.
yeah, the
Yeah,
interview.
with
That's one of the
debate.
best.
Yes.
MashaAllah. And one of the best things that I have seen in that video is, of course, how direct he is. Like, it's very direct.
Yeah.
He says, "You're the messenger." Yeah, I am the messenger. Why couldn't I be that? Here is the proof. He's just
Mm-hmm.
like so direct, not,
Mm-hmm.
because he knows that if he would explain everything
All
and
the
I
points.
Yeah, and I asked him, right? I said, "Look, I watched some of your videos where you're talking and explaining people about, looking only, to the Quran and seeing that as a source, etc." But like he almost didn't say anything about Dr. Rashad, and then I'm thinking, but why? And most of the times, these people, the answer that they are giving is, yeah, like we shouldn't give them. Um, Basically what they're saying is we should give the information step by step. If we say that Dr. Rashad was a messenger, then they will run away. But if I'm not mistaken, in the messengers explains this, it's not about that. Like, you don't control their heart or their minds. God knows. So you
Mm-hmm.
should be direct and give the information as the messenger, like you said, gave. And don't be afraid of them not believing, because like it's so strange, right? Then those people, they think that they are the ones who are turning those people into submitters by their method, but in actually it is God who is doing it. So it
Mm-hmm.
should be direct, in my opinion,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
like
I
the
think
messenger did.
I yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you shouldn't withhold certain information. Definitely give them information. But the thing is, you can give it in a certain order, right? For example, like if I go to if I want to invite someone to submission, and someone who's a Christian, right? And I say, hey, I have a book, and it shows that Jesus is not God, and would you like to read it? And maybe he just gets immediately repulsed by that statement because he believes a certain way and he may not want to read it. But if I tell him, hey, I would like to show you a book that invites you, gives you formula to perfect happiness, complete success in the hereafter, and this and that. I mean, there's many ways to invite someone, and then after that, you can tell them too. What I'm trying to say is not wrong to
No,
not
no, no.
say
What I meant,
or
brother,
say,
is like,
but I'm
yeah,
saying,
but so sorry, brother. But what I meant is like these people, they wait for like 1 year or 2 years and they still don't
oh,
mention Rashad.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, that's wrong. That's
yeah, that's
definitely
what I mean.
not
Like,
right. Yeah,
what
because
are you
they
thinking?
want to withhold it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
there's
So
people. There are people that I was talking. What I was referring to. There's people that that think that way, exactly what you're saying, right? But then there's also people that say, no, don't mention him, you know, at all, because it will, like you said, it will mislead someone. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying there's others that will just proactively want to say whatever they feel is the right way, right? But the thing is, there's no cookie cutter way to give the message of God says you should give it with wisdom and kind enlightenment and debate in the
Mm-hmm.
best possible manner, so
Mm-hmm.
different circumstances could be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different people are have different ways to hook them in that sense, right? God is the one who controls eventually either way, so you can never be too careful, or just don't have to worry too much, I guess,
Yeah,
about about all of that. Don't get hung up.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
should I
yeah,
give him this and that? But just do your part. But just try to use your common sense. I mean, like
yeah,
what you think is the right way. I mean, there's no really right or wrong way, really, in the sense, as long as you're doing it in the best possible manner, you're doing it with wisdom, you're doing it kindly, as God says, and
yeah, yeah,
God is the
mashallah.
one who controls the words that come out of our mouths. He's the
Yeah,
one who controls the other person's reaction,
mm-hmm.
and there's no right or wrong way. But
Yeah,
as far as making the points, and like the video and the book, especially the book is a bit longer. It's a little more comprehensive. There's proofs, references that, it's harder to catch things in videos. But for some people, videos might work better. Like there's a lot of people that don't like to read, and for them, videos would work better. So other people that love to read, and so you could give them the book too.
yeah, mashallah, brother. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the points that I wanted to make is also we shouldn't get the idea that someone is going to become a submitter or not going to become a submitter is because the way how we do it. It's not because of that. It's all because if they deserve it, they deserve it. If not,
Mm-hmm.
if you deserve it, even if you preach in the best way manner, it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
help them. So sometimes people get into this, you get into this thought that, okay, if I do my job very well, then I will convince him. But it's not going to make any difference.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
That's
you need to
right.
do it as God has told us in the best
Mm-hmm.
way, but we shouldn't get to this idea of, okay, because I said this thing too early, that's why he didn't accept it. It's not like, still God is doing that. He made you say that to him, or he made you not say something, right? So but we shouldn't get to that idea that is in our hands. The hearts are in the hands of God. So mashallah, that was the point actually, that we
Mm-hmm.
at least understand, because I had this feeling, brother, like for the first in my first years, maybe especially in the first months, like I was so excited, and I wanted to tell everyone and to tell and give this information. And when people didn't believe in it, like it was like if it was because I didn't do a good job. And I tried to explain them, and I gave them examples, and I changed the way how I debated, the examples and all those things and information. In some ways, I was like heated. It was like more than a heated discussion than like a relaxed one when two people are talking. Because
Mm-hmm.
those people, when you talk about these topics, the topics that messengership, only the Quran, not accepting the hadith, right? Then it can become
Mm-hmm.
heated. So then you get involved in those things. It's a fight. Like it's really,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's actually disturbing and very difficult. So and the way how I understood it is, of course, with the Quran studies that we have, then understanding more that it is God who gives to ones who deserves it. So at least we should have this understanding. It's not in our hands. We should do our best, but we should definitely know God is the one who's controlling all hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also on the flip side, when we do give the message, if if we don't do it right, too, we also have to watch out for that, right? When I say we don't do it right, meaning that if we break God's commandments in that sense, like the messenger talked about, like how, raising your voice above the voice of the messenger and being disrespectful to him in a public setting could send someone to hell by setting a bad example and repelling someone, So there's a lot of people that are actually doing that, right? There's a lot of people that are doing the work of Satan, thinking that they're doing the work of God by spreading submission in a wrong way, or by not following God's laws when inviting people to submission. And I mean, they're repelling people left and right. And of course, the sin of when those people become disbelievers, not that they don't deserve to be disbelievers, they do deserve to be disbelievers. But then this also allows these people to share in the credit of sending these people astray by participating in that, by setting the bad example. Like, even though those people deserve to go astray, the people who led them astray will also suffer, right? As we know from the Quran. And so these people who are setting the bad examples, for example, inviting enemies of God and false messengers to create a sensational drama or something like that, so they could attract more audience, so they could boast about their numbers, and or they could show their cleverness or whatever in front of so many people as they think, uh, that they will repel so many people in the process, and also by saying things about God and about the message that are not true, but they're saying it. All these things becomes something that is not approved by God. And they're sending people astray. Like as you see in history, right? There was like the Nicene Conference, right? And what that did is, all these people who were spreading falsehood and distorting the religion, many of these people probably thought that they were very righteous, and obviously, we see people now are spreading falsehood among especially submitters, and converting new people to submission with the wrong ideas, think that they're doing something good, and these people are multiplying too, and then they're proud of their numbers, you know and so those people are doing bad, right, rather than good. So but yeah, I mean, as long as we're not breaking God's law, we're doing it the right way, we're saying the right things, just maybe our orders might be wrong, or maybe we're not as you know uh, welcoming or as cheerful as someone else may accept. I mean, that's understandable, right? And God doesn't care, doesn't punish us for those things, right? But for people who are breaking God's law and setting a bad example, the way they invite them, for example, some people will want to insult other people rather than invite them by showing them that they're wrong. It's like a show. It's like a show, where they want to show, look, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to debate with you in whatever Times Square or whatever, or online, you know, and they're doing it for pop. It's like a popularity thing, like they're showing their strength and how wise they are. Well, I mean, those kinds of things can happen, right? So in a nutshell, we do have to be careful how we spread God's message, but not in the way that many people get hung up on what to say in first and what not to say first, which points to bring up, which points not to bring up. But we have to just, observe God's laws as we're doing it, is what I'm trying to convey, God willing. So, Moshe, I think that's a very comprehensive answer to what was shared.
MashaAllah.
So, but it was a good question.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah, they set the worst examples, and it's like you said, it's not when you see these people and how they're responding on a public platform and stuff. It's becomes real apparent. It's not really about you know delivering it in the best possible manner. It's about I'm right, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're debating with a
Yeah.
Mohammedan, you shouldn't be like abusive,
Yeah.
or Jesus worship. You shouldn't be abusive towards them, even though you're right
Mm-hmm.
and you have the message of submission, because
Mm-hmm.
that's like that's not how God would want us to be. Like, oh, you're such a loser, idiot. Oh, you're worshiping
Yeah.
God. Like,
Yeah.
obviously they're not saying that, but
Mm-hmm.
their arrogance and the way
Mm-hmm.
they convey themselves and carry
Exactly.
themselves, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
it, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
On the that's what you see that submitter these so-called submitter groups do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's yeah, they're just
Mm-hmm.
exposing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's worst examples we've said. Yeah, I had a question. I remembered it.
Mm-hmm.
Off topic.
Oh yeah, you said you
So
had a question
yeah.
before.
So Surah 16. So everyone must. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
verse where it says it's subtitled
Yeah, I think you can
everyone must
stop
be.
sharing screen now. Sorry, go ahead, Jim. Yeah.
So it's Surah 16. Sorry, Surah 19, verse 71. It says everyone sees hell. It's
Mm-hmm.
It says every single one of you must see it. This is an irrevocable decision of your Lord. And then in the footnote, it says, as the detailed in Appendix 11, we will be resurrected prior to God's physical arrival to our universe. That will be a temporary taste of hell, since the absence of God is hell. When God comes, Surah 89, verse 22, the righteous will be rescued. So I thought I remember hearing, or maybe it was another verse, like the how everyone, sees hell kind of referred to us coming here to this earth, because this earth is kind of like a halfway house to hell. Is this the right understanding, or?
So the Earth's being halfway house to hell is true for us now in the sense that we could either go to hell or we could go to heaven, right? In that sense, it's a halfway to hell because people who are going to hell are halfway there, basically,
Hmm.
by coming here. Not fully there because they're not there. But what is the other part of your question?
So so everyone sees hell. I thought I remember. I don't know. When I read the footnote for this verse, it says, how we'll be resurrected. Maybe it's the first time, or I forgot about the footnote. It says we will be
Mm-hmm.
resurrected prior to God's physical arrival to our
Mm-hmm.
universe. That will be a temporary taste of hell. So basically, it's like when everyone's brought back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that temporary absence of God is like the hell that we taste or experience or see. It says this is irrevocable because in
Mm-hmm.
verse 7.
So when it says there will be a temporary taste of hell prior to God's physical arrival, right? So this is referring to the horrible events, my understanding is the horrible events on the day of resurrection, right?
Oh, that
Because
makes sense.
when everything, the mountains are being wiped out, people are being resurrected, coming out of their graves. Everybody is, like staggering. What's the word? They look like they're intoxicated. I mean, they're so horrified that, God says a pregnant mother will abort her fetus, and everybody's worried about their fate, and everything's falling apart, literally, earth and the heavens, right? So, and we are resurrected, all of us, even the righteous souls who are in paradise, they're restored back to their bodies for the day of resurrection to come out. So we see all this stuff. Even the people who are going to heaven will see everything happening, but it will not worry them. But nevertheless, they will experience all of this in
Yeah,
front
they'll
of them,
see
right?
it,
All of
right?
this.
Yeah, they'll
Mm-hmm.
see everything, like
Yeah.
and the righteous were rescued. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be very intense for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
every soul.
Yeah.
I mean, it's intense. Yeah, super intense.
Yeah. Like, like people use the expression like, the world is coming to an end or the world is falling apart. So
Right.
that will be the literally.
If only they knew, like what. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Mashallah.
Okay. Sure, that's a good question. All these things make you think, every so often, like we remind. I mean, even though I'd say, like, even though we read verses every day, like in our reading the Quran on our own, like when we sit together in studies and talk about them, it really, some of these things really hit home, like, every now and then, like we're repeatedly reminded of several things that may not come to our attention, but like also when someone asks a question or makes a comment, it makes us think about that. Or some people notice things that others don't, like or like, for example, some may notice something that we might not have noticed and learn new things as we grow this
Yeah,
this way,
exactly.
right?
Like
Inshallah.
a big one was I mentioned it I think last Tuesday, but about the fear with the idols. I
Mm-hmm.
guess there's so many verses in the Quran, like I never thought to bring it up or forgot or something, but like I
Mm-hmm.
always thought, and I didn't think it was correct. Like I didn't really understand, but I always thought like,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, maybe that meant like the big scary, stone idols or something. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like at the time of Abraham, like they're very
Mm-hmm.
imposing or something. I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense because not everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as it was brought up, I was like, oh, it makes sense. How they frighten. Then that makes sense. Like they
Mm-hmm.
frighten you, like, oh, you don't believe this in our
Mm-hmm.
Jesus or Muhammad, you're gonna end up in hell. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they really try to frighten you or put, like, oh well,
Mm-hmm.
do I need to,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah, even the way they feel sorry for you also is the way they feel sorry
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
Why? Because they think something bad is going to happen to you, and then indirectly they're trying to scare you. Like, oh, why are they feeling sorry for me? Oh, because something
Right.
bad is going to happen to me.
Yeah, and it's like, do they know something? Right? Yeah, and especially if it's more than one of them, it's like a team and stuff, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it can be like
Right.
they try to scare you and stuff, and they scare a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God says, "Do not be intimidated by those who have not attained certainty."
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, something else that mashallah, it's a good point and good verse is like they kind of band together like that because they I don't think maybe deep down they kind of know they don't have certainty, but they feel perhaps more comfortable if they just keep telling
Mm-hmm.
themselves Jesus will save me, Jesus will save me, or or Muhammad will save
Mm-hmm.
me, and then
Yeah,
it
they're
kind of
just basically
reinforces a false
telling
concept.
themselves, yeah, trying
Yeah,
to pump themselves up,
yeah,
going
exactly. They pump
with the
themselves
lie.
up, and yeah,
They're saying it enough times so it becomes true.
right, exactly. No, yeah, it's very, it's very true.
Until they start believing in their own lies.
Yeah, they'll even do like confirmation bias and stuff, or they'll try
Hmm.
to send you videos and stuff like, oh, look at this. This is proves what I was talking about. Like, no, it doesn't prove
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, just fancy words, right? Like
Yeah,
Brother Jaffer was saying
exactly.
earlier about what is their proof. Like all these hadiths, uh, fear mongering people. Like, what is their proof? They don't have a proof. And
Yeah, exactly.
same goes for all these other people. They don't have a proof,
Oh,
but God has
I've
given
asked
us.
people and they say their proof. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, their proof is their personal experience. I've heard that so many
But
times.
that's
Like,
not
oh,
proof.
Right, it's not. It's like you don't know the experience I had with the Lord. I
Well,
was
then you
once.
can't prove you can't prove it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you can present your personal experience as a proof in court, right? You
Yeah,
have to give
exactly.
evidence.
I should tell if I hear someone say that next time, I should tell them that, in a nice way, but like debating
Yeah.
with them. But
Yeah.
but yeah, they'll it should make
Yeah.
them think.
The word is saying like I am because I am, like yeah.
Yeah,
I am because I am.
like what does that even?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, the experience with their Lord. Yeah, if you make Satan, the devil, your Lord, then of course you're going to have that kind of experience. I think that's it.
Yeah,
What
it's
they mean,
very true. It's like they're in a hypnosis, because I've heard some crazy things like, oh, in church, like this person was quote unquote being saved and he pushed the pastor off of him and the pastor flew like 10 feet across the room and 5 people saw it and demon manifest. And I'm like, dude, you're just, you weren't even there.
Yeah.
And they exaggerate that stuff a lot,
Yeah, I mean, if you eat
Nothing
enough
is
mushrooms, I mean,
godly
you think
about throwing a person across the room.
Yeah. If you eat enough mushrooms, I mean, you're gonna experience yourself being a pumpkin. I mean, does that make you a pumpkin?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Right. That's very true. Yeah. Mashallah. Yeah, that's really the best they can come up with, because they have no proof, And subhanAllah, we have proof, and so it's so reassuring, when you talk with people, you can be like, hey, look, maybe check this out, and stuff, Like I can.
Yeah, and like we don't have like one thing to show, right? We have the
So
mathematical
many
proof is
things.
so vast. You have
Yeah.
so many different proofs, like never-ending
The
plethora of
embryo and
evidence
stuff.
going
Yeah.
left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, overwhelming proof, right? I mean, like God says, I mean, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? We have so much proof, so much evidence, and they have nothing in that sense to prove that Jesus is God or Muhammad can save them or any of this stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Quran is the ultimate proof, and we have the ultimate miracle. I mean, they can't bring any proof because there is none. I mean, it's all falsehood. Satan's game is all based on lies and false promises, deception, temptation, lies. Yeah, and they don't realize, I mean, how short this life is, how fast it's going. And before they know, I mean, their games, these games that they play with people and with God, they will be over, and then there will be, eternity of remorse for all these people. So, the intelligent ones are those who take heed at that point, when they see the message.
Yeah, mashallah. And some of these people, when they near the end of their life, like personal friends slash relatives, I think one of them's passed, and then one of them is kind of getting close to that age. They're actually both of them. I heard from multiple sources that both of them are like really terrified. Terrified is a correct word. I'm not exaggerating. And one of them's a Catholic, but their whole life they're probably arrogant in their belief about the Catholicism and stuff, and then now they're like they don't know what to expect. They're like, oh, is everything I ever believe, is it real? Like, how do I know? It's kind of scary for these people.
Yeah, I think even there's something like that was I heard about Mother Teresa also. I shouldn't call her mother, but She's not my
Oh,
mother.
she had the same experience or something.
Yeah, like she wasn't. There was stuff that was in the news, circulating the news and stuff, that she
Mhm.
didn't believe in her religion when she was dying.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost kind of like a pharaoh, like a miniature pharaoh type example. Like, even though
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh's death was pretty quick, but like these people are like kind of a little more drawn out, but like we're so arrogant for,
Yeah.
like, no, there's no God doesn't exist, or Mary can
Mm-hmm.
help me. But when it comes time, like they're about to die, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I was
Yeah.
like, well, no, you had a lifelong chance, as the Quran
Mm-hmm.
says, but you continue to disregard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a big article in the Time magazine. It's called Mother Teresa's Crisis of Faith. And then this news became very popular that she had a 50-year crisis of faith, actually, and wrestled with the existence of God.
What does that mean, crisis
Wow,
of
I didn't
faith?
know
Like,
that.
like she didn't really believe
But
in
told people
God.
that she believed, or she...
Yeah, yeah. Like it was an internal sort of struggle,
Wow,
private
Oh, she
struggle.
that's crazy.
pretended for a very long time.
hmm
And what happened then?
Then, I mean, it became known because some of her letters where she was writing these things, like she was writing to someone else, they leaked. They said it was her most shameful secret. Um,
Oh, but if you don't believe in God,
Yeah, it's
what
very
kind of
interesting.
a sin? Okay.
were the letters her own letters to herself, or was it her personal letters? Yeah, she was. She was.
Like a diary.
It says she was aware of the contradiction between her public persona and private feelings, calling her smile a mask.
Yeah, now that my brother told me something, I don't know, but he said she
hmm
was like really, like kind of a really wicked person, like behind the
hmm
scenes or something. I think he had
hmm
looked into. I don't know if it was about the religious stuff, but like she was mean. She was mean hearted. Like she wasn't kind and
yeah.
sweet like everybody thinks. So yeah, makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of the verse, like how I mean, I know happens after death, but like how the disbelievers and God, they say, "My Lord, send me back." I'll then work righteousness. So it's kind of similar in the sense, before they're dying, they know they probably wrong their soul for most of their life by being a disbeliever.
Yeah. So it was between her and her confessors and superiors over a period of 66 years.
So she
She talks
was a
about
hypocrite,
darkness and loneliness.
but she was then a hypocrite.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah. A cloak that covers everything. Of course, I mean, they're all
Yeah.
hypocrites, you know.
Yeah, we know where hypocrites go,
hmm Yeah, but this is like an icon that people thought was, an icon of, you know, uh, I don't know,
Peace and
nice
love and
peace
being
and
nice.
love
Yeah,
and
yeah.
selflessness and all whatnot.
Mhm.
Saint.
Yeah, yeah, for us, it's very easy to see, right? Because you say if someone is a good person and,
Mm-hmm.
like if they deserve it, then God is going to guide them eventually
Mm-hmm.
to submission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but everybody says they're a good person, and people think that, for example, Mother Teresa was a great person, but what exactly is a good person in terms of
Ye-
submission, you know, a good person is someone who truly believes in God alone and sincerely
Believes in the
believes in God
message,
alone and
but also believes in the message.
submits completely to God,
Yeah,
right? With
and
all his
submitting.
commandments, everything.
Yeah, so that means actually basically accepting that the Quran is the word of God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean the thing is, when people don't believe in God alone, their soul is not growing, no matter how many righteous works they do, right? They can still not grow their soul, and that's why, you know, all these people we know that don't truly believe, they continue to commit sins, and you know, in privacy, and then they get caught, right? But it's because their souls are not nourishing, because they're not even connected to God, you know, for their souls to nourish. They've never formed that connection with God, so the nourishment is not really coming at all. Um, and so only the people who believe in God alone, they're the ones who can grow their souls. So you know how people put their blinding trust in all these preachers and stuff, like, for example, with their children and all that, and they all get molested and everything, and women get raped with all these people, because their souls are not grown, and they have put them on a pedestal and think they were so righteous, and so they're not going to commit any of these sins. And people give them money and trust them with so many things, right? Money and children and all this stuff, and obviously, you know, we find out that they're just as bad, if not worse, than any other people in this world. But they're just you know, masking themselves, like, you know, like, as we know the term wolves in sheep's clothing, right? They're just deceiving people, you know, for money, for various reasons, for gaining people's trust. Like, it's so common in Pakistan, you know, people having like long beards and stuff, like look like religious clerics, just to gain people's trust, to look like you know, religious guys. Um, you know, not out of any other reason, but just to appear righteous, you know. And for the same reason, like, or now all the women wearing headscarves and stuff, you know, to appear righteous, and then they're doing all the bad things, you know, gossiping and backbiting and scheming, and among other things. And mashallah, I mean, it's a true blessing to have the truth. And so we can grow our souls. It helps us, you know, stay strong, mashallah. Not like all these people, you know, pretentious. God willing, we're not saying that we are perfect. We're not, or we can be pretentious. I mean, we can be. So we have to keep an eye out on, you know, truly believing the things that God has given us, of course, because there's hypocrites in submission too, right? And we could be hypocrites if we don't actually uphold these commandments. But at least we have a chance of making it when we say we believe in God alone, you know, then the test starts. So as long as we're doing our part, then we don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah.
I had an off-topic question.
Mm-hmm.
If that's okay. Yeah. So,
Yeah, please.
so for a few times we are discussing the topic of insurance. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
no, not insurance.
Gambling?
Interest. No,
Oh,
interest.
interest. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. So
Or
usually,
yeah,
so
right.
so basically, the idea is when you are giving money someone with interest, like we understand from usury that it should be less than 20%.
Mm-hmm.
right? So the idea is that when you give someone money, you can't take more than 20% from the total amount. Like with a house, for example, if you buy a house, the bank asks for, let's say, 5% per year, but in reality, when you're done after 20 years or 30 years, you paid like 60%. So this means that you can go with that. Is that correct?
I think the interest is on a yearly basis, right?
Yearly basis?
Yeah, depending on how long you loan the money for, also the interest, like the interest matters. Like interest. Uh, I mean, from the worldly perspective, at least, right? When the messenger says, as long as it's between 15 and 20%, it's talking about the interest rate, right? It's a rate. So rate is at a period, right? Rate means something else is uh, in the picture also. Like it's not interest itself; it's interest rate, right? So, like for
Okay.
example, if I say I have an hour, you have an hourly rate for your construction workers, right? It's whatever, 100 euros or whatever over on an hourly basis, right? That's a rate, right?
Okay. So
Or you
does
say,
this
what is the rate for the electricity? It's that many kilowatts an hour, right?
Yeah, okay, but does this
So
mean that you can buy a house even if you're going to
so
pay
APR is the annual
60%?
percentage rate or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but so this is the question, brother.
right.
So what I thought was that you look at the totality of the money. Like I am lending €100, $100, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask maximum $20 back, maximum, and I can make an agreement with that person. I can ask him, okay, I want you to pay this within 1 year, or I can say within 5 years, or within 10 years. It doesn't matter. If I don't take more than 20% of the total amount that I have given, you see, because or else you can give someone money, let's say $10,000, and then you make an agreement with him for 5 years. And if you ask every year 20%, in 5 years you have asked actually 100% back.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or should we not look at the total amount from the 100,000? I can only take 20,000. It doesn't matter how long it takes. 20 years, 10 years. That's just an agreement between me and the one whom I
Mm-hmm.
give the money to.
Yeah, but when the messenger of the covenant is talking about interest,
Yes.
in all of these terms, that's how everybody charges interest in this world, right? There's nobody who gives you a loan for a 20 year period or for a car or anything that says this is the percentage of the loan throughout the lifetime, because that could change. So they always give you a rate.
Why? Why?
Huh?
Why?
Why what?
You can take
No, I'm
you can
saying
take a fixed interest if you buy a house. You
you
can say for the
can,
next
you can, but
20.
that's not how it works, right? In the world, what I'm saying is when the messenger is talking about the banks and the things, all the examples that he's talking about, um, he's not talking about a fixed interest, because I don't see that being a system in this world as it is, anyways, right?
Mm,
How all these banks and they have a system, and based on the system, it's based annually. It's a rate that is on an annual basis, right? That's how
mhm.
a rate is calculated.
Yeah, like you need to
So
pay every year, let's say
mm-hmm,
10%. And then if you
mm-hmm,
take the loan for five
mm-hmm,
years, you
mm-hmm,
end up actually paying more than five. But so
mm-hmm.
in this case,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you mean?
So yeah, like houses and stuff, for example, in the US have like 6 to whatever, like anywhere between 5 to 8%, so interest, right? But it's an annual interest. It's based on an annual percentage. So depending on how long the loan is, that is
The
also a
percentage
service
changes.
someone is giving. Like if I'm loaning you money for 30 years, if I'm giving you $200,000, you have a long period for me to pay it, right? Versus if I want it tomorrow, there's no way you can come up with it. So you need someone who can give you longer. Now that's another service, right? Your money is stuck with this person for that many years, right? You're not going to be able to recover it. So that's why there's a service fee on it, right? That's what he talks about. Like no one is victimized because if you have to pay it over a long period too, your payments are also smaller. It's not a burden on you, you know. But the
Mm-hmm.
rate is an annual rate. Is how the world works. I'm saying, right? So when the messenger is
Mm-hmm.
giving examples of this world, he's not saying that anywhere that this system is wrong to have, but he's saying, yeah, and all these banks and stuff, they're charging less than 20%, normal interest less than 20%. He calls it normal, so he said that's normal
Annually,
and that's
annually.
fine. Yeah, but he doesn't say
Yeah.
annually or not annually, but he says the way they're doing it, normally 15 to 20%, whatever. If it's not more than that, it's
Oh, okay.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, that was the whole confusion there. Like this 15
Mm-hmm.
to 20%, is that about the total amount? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
like
It's the
because like
APR. Yeah.
yeah, because John said so a house that you buy for 300,000 after 30 years actually you end up paying 640,000. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
more than the amount
Mm-hmm.
that you have taken you
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
then if you look on the
But if you
plus side,
pay, yeah,
yeah.
like the 30, I think too, it kind of makes sense because the 30 years, like that's a long time to be owing somebody money. But let's say
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I paid that house off. Let's say you gave me money and I paid you back within 2 years. I'm only going to pay you like
Mm-hmm.
hardly any interest. Like you're not,
Yeah,
so it kind of,
exactly.
yeah, it's AP.
You're
Yeah,
saving money then.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saving money. It's kind of like super nice of you, really, to be that patient with me for 30 years, like half a lifetime. And so that amount of interest is, but if I decide to pay it off sooner, I really won't pay much. But
Yeah,
banks,
or
of
sell the
course,
house.
banks don't like that when you pay off. Like
Mm.
they actually have now. I think this is kind of abusive of what they do. Not everyone does it, but they have prepayment penalties. So if you go to take a
Uh-huh.
loan out on a car, which almost happened to me, they give you like, your loan, but if you decide to pay it off within 2 years, so you hardly pay any interest, they actually penalize you and will charge you like tens of thousands of dollars. What do y'all think about that? That's not right, huh? Like just because you decide to pay it off
Mm-hmm.
early. Like let's say you came into a
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
bunch of
feel
money.
right because
Mm-hmm.
you are victimizing that person, right?
Yes, I think
Well,
just because
because
they paid it off
also
early, they
yeah,
charge
but
them
I mean, also
fees.
they're looking at it as a financial investment. So if you're
Mhm.
only gonna take the loan for 1 year, let's say, but just because they don't have anything longer than or shorter than 3 years, you take the 3 year and you want to pay it in 1 year. But they're looking at it as making profit, right, from the
Hmm.
thing.
Mhm.
So I mean, they can dictate their terms,
Terms, right.
but
But you
That's true.
sign also,
as
right? Because
Right.
you agree simultaneously. You know that
Yes.
if you're going to
hmm
pay faster, you need to pay that. So you are
Uh-huh.
making an agreement before you even get the loan. So you should pay
Yeah.
that eventually.
Yeah,
So when you do
definitely.
it knowingly, if it was a surprise, like they
That
would say,
makes
okay, we're
sense,
gonna give you
right?
this, and then
Yeah, like if
oh
they didn't
yeah,
tell you, right? Like if
hmm
they didn't tell you or something.
hmm
yeah,
Of-
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not everyone does that too. I just saw that
Yeah,
with
so
like the
hmm
we need to
attendant.
correct this in the Turkish study because that is how I thought about it, like you look at the total amount, but in this
hmm
case, it's like annually actually, because
hmm
that's the system.
Right, but it's not compound interest, right? That's different. Where like you pay interest on top of the interest that is building up or something.
Yeah, like right. That's different because I heard on talk show like this dentist or something is literally his payments are
hmm
like 10,000 a month, or maybe not that much, but he owes like $1 million somehow, and he's literally like so trapped and stuck because his minimum payments are just on interest, but they're so expensive because of how much he owes, and they've made it to where like it's impossible for him and him and his wife called into like
And so
financial trouble.
that's how
That's
it
real
becomes
bad.
usury, right?
Yeah.
When they compound it over and over, like it says in verse 130, so usury prohibited. It says, "O you who believe, you shall not take usury, compounded over and over." So yeah.
Yeah,
So
because he
they
owed like 700,000, I think, 5 years ago, and then now he owes $1 million. But yet he's been paying, or maybe it was like 10 years or something. But he's been paying a lot of money, but now he owes even more. Like, how do you even do that? Like, he's working backwards because of all the compound.
That's what you call them, loan sharks.
Yeah, it's like signing the deal with the devil, as they say.
Yeah.
They're trying to make you slaves, loan sharks.
Yeah, but a lot of those loans are also really high interest rates to begin with. A lot of the loans. But yeah, that's why it's important to read all the terms before you sign on any of those documents.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, sometimes we get in a rush and we don't want to read, but
you're happy you got a loan, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, like you're at a dealership or something, and if your credit's not that great, like my
They
case was a few
always
years
try
ago.
to
It's
get
they
connected with
woo
you.
you into, let's get you in this nice vehicle. We got you approved, and then the terms are like, after it's not the greatest.
Where they say
Mashallah.
it's okay to have bad credit, you should run away.
Yeah. Yeah, they find somebody to loan you the money,
No
but like
credit, bad credit.
the terms are so against you or not in your favor. Best just to wait a little more or buy a vehicle later when your credit's better.
Any other comments or questions? All right, so thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brother Jaffer, for leading the study, and Brother Abdullah for streaming. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.